let's take a look at messages in Harmony. Before we dive in, we hope you've had a chance to look at other help resources. Most of the text and email messages you'll send from Harmony are based on templates. Other articles and videos provide details and instructions on configuring your system and custom message templates. Dealing with prospect marketing campaigns employs Harmony messages, but it's a subject all to itself. Learn more about it in resources covering activities, projects, and campaigns. When dealing with inquiries and showing requests on your rental listings, you'll do much of the messaging in the listing communications system. There are videos and articles covering this separately. Messaging for applicants, including acceptance and adverse action, is highly regulated. Learn about that in resources covering applications and screening. If you're looking for information on configuring and managing email accounts in your Hero website, that's also covered in different resources. Here we're going to look at sending and receiving messages in Harmony, using the CRM functions. In Harmony, messages can be email, text, or conversations. This allows you to communicate effectively with both occupant and client prospects, and with all the people you're engaged in business with, including owners, tenants, guests, association members, vendors, and sources. Email is generally preferred because it supports rich formatting and tracking, and doesn't have the sending limits or costs that text messages have. However, each format has its advantages and its place, and each is available to you. Now let's dive in. First, let's talk about system messages. System messages correspond to a specific action or event in the system. For example, here you'll receive a tenant's rent payment. The messaging options are at the bottom of the view. In this case, both notification options are grayed out, because in your settings, you set this to Option to Send. If you'd set this to Always Send, the buttons would already be active. This is covered in detail when you learn about templates. Click or tap these icons to turn them on or off, and hover over them to see details on how and where the message will be delivered. Here you see the occupant message will be sent to Tempo Tenant, who prefers a specific email address and a specific text number. This is configured in their tenant profile, so let's jump over there and look at where this is set. Select the Profile icon from the menu. Scroll down to the Contact section. You see this tenant has one phone number, and it's designated as a mobile number. They have one email address. In Preferred Messaging, it's indicated that they prefer messaging by email and text. Select the Help tip for more information on this. Note that when you actually send a system message, Harmony's AI will make the determination on where and how to send it, based on the person's preferences and the contact methods entered and their validity. If you indicated a specific preferred method in their profile, and there is a valid contact associated with that method, that's how the message will be sent. If anything is wrong or missing, Harmony will punt. The No Messaging preference will avoid sending a system message to this person, even if you select to send one, or have the Always Send option on. One use case for this option is a scenario where you have multiple tenants on the same lease, or multiple owners on a management agreement. You want to record each of their email addresses for your records, but one of the owners or tenants have indicated they don't want to receive these emails. Imagine an owner named Susie who co-owns a property with her 85-year-old mother, Maud. Maud may get confused about the tenant's rent receipt email, and Susie may request that you not send these notifications to Mom. There's another level to block outgoing messages to an individual. It can be confusing, so we'll clarify it here. In Consent Authorization, there's an option to exclude the person from automated messages. This is not a preference, but a legal indication that shows this person has withdrawn their consent to receive any message automatically generated. If your local laws and your agreements permit a person to withdraw consent, set this and it will override other preferences. Back at the tenant receipt example, once you save it with notification on, the confirmation shows the message was sent. In this case, you selected to send a message to the occupants, which is all tenants on the lease agreement, and to the account, which is all owners on the management agreement. They'll each receive a message based on your template. Here, that's the Receipts Occupant template, and the Receipts Account template, in the Money section of System Messages settings. Other system messages work in a similar fashion. Again, you can learn more about configuring your system message templates in other resources. They are entirely customizable. You can design and structure all these messages to be exactly what you want, matching your preferences, branding, and the needs of your audience. Before we go any further, let's take a look at where your recipient sees that your messages come from. For email messages, you configure the name and email address that outbound messages come from. In the agent settings for the responsible agent, enter the email from name that you want to display in sent messages. If you leave this blank, the agent's name will be used. In the agent's contact view, you have the option to use the company contact email or specify a different contact for this agent. Text messages work a little differently. Because of laws around A2P text messaging, text messages will always come from a 10DLC number assigned to Harmony. They will not display your name or phone number. There are Harmony help resources that will fully enlighten you on all matters surrounding text messages that come from software, instead of from an individual phone subscriber. In the agent settings, you also see the CRM email address. Put this in your back pocket. We're going to come back to discuss how to connect your company email to Harmony for inbound messages and replies. Let's take a look at how to send an individual, non-system, message. From a person, select the Messages icon from the menu. At the top, you see any contact preferences you've saved in this person's profile. This is for your information, so you can honor their requests. Then, you see a list of all messages related to this person, either to them, from them, or assigned to them. Here you see the payment received message you sent a moment ago. We'll come back to this. Select the Add icon and choose the type of message to send. You can select an email message, a text message, or a conversation. For each, you can start with a blank slate or with a custom template you've created. Reference other resources for help creating your custom templates for messages. Emails support rich media, including fonts, colors, images, and more. Text messages are plain text only. Once a standard rich media option is available for A2P text messaging, we'll certainly add it in Harmony. At this time, there is no such thing, so plain text is your only option. Conversations are also plain text. A conversation can be done in person or by phone, and the conversation content you enter is either a summary of your conversation or the actual transcript. If you're logging a received voicemail, or have phone recordings or online meetings with automated transcripts, simply paste the transcript. This is not sent anywhere, but is recorded in the person's account. Obviously, the sent portion is what was already heard in the ears when you had the conversation. For this demonstration, we'll send a single email without a template. Enter the subject and compose your message. If there's an attachment to send, select it from Attach File, or drop it onto the dashed box. The Send Time option defaults to Send Now. If you're working at midnight and want it to be sent at a later time, select Send Later. Choose the time to send it, and queue the message for later delivery. Select the Send Message or Queue Message button when you're done. In the message list, you now see a message queued for later delivery, as indicated by the time and the queue icon in the status. If you made a mistake, select the message to edit it. From the options drop-down, select Cancel Message. Now in our message list, we see that this message has gone from queued to canceled. We'll come back to other options later. For now, let's look at how to send a bulk message with group messaging. From Management, select Messages. Select the Add option, then Send Email Message. Since you didn't start from an individual person's messages list, you're prompted to select People. You can enter something into the Find Someone box and find all matches. Or you can use power searches. Power searches are very flexible, and there are help resources to give you guidance on all the ways a power search can be used. There's also a button for common power searches. You can click or tap the heading for a reference article. For this demonstration, select Unfinished Tenants. This will give you all tenants who have not finished their lease yet. For practical purposes, this includes tenants who have moved in and who are about to move in. The list of matching tenants displays, along with the count. Let's say that, instead, you wanted to search for everyone involved with all units on a street called Anywhere Drive. In the search box, enter the word Anywhere. The result list will display everyone who is in a unit, or has a unit, on Anywhere Drive, along with the counts by category. Another powerful search and selection tool is custom tags. With this, you can tag anyone with a specific word or phrase that you create, and select all the people who have that tag. In our fake example, let's say that the Public Works Department contacted us to let us know they're going to be limiting access to Anywhere Drive to work on the sewer, and they want us to tell everyone living there. Obviously, this doesn't impact owners who own a unit on Anywhere Drive, so deselect all owners from the list. You might also want to deselect the vendors on this list. However, their units icon shows you this vendor has 4 related units. Click it to see what they are. In this case, the vendor has services agreements on 4 units on Anywhere Drive. You may want to include them on this message, in case they need to know for service-related issues. Select the individual recipients for this message, or select the checkbox at the top to choose to send to all listed people. When you've made your selections, choose Compose Email. In the To box, all selected recipients are displayed. If there are people to whom the message cannot be sent, they'll be listed separately. These would typically be people who don't have a valid email address, in the case of email messages, or don't have a valid phone number in the case of text messages. If you want to CC yourself on a group message, enter your email address. Enter the subject, and compose your message. When you're ready, select Send Message to send it. Each message you sent displays in your message list, and is also available in each recipient's message list. Besides getting the message via email, they can also view it in their portal, if messages are enabled for them. More on this is covered in other help resources for portals. There are also cases where you need to compose free-form messages, or messages based on a custom template, while you're working on something for a person. For example, let's say you have a scheduled phone call with an owner, and you get tied up. From the phone call activity, select the Options drop-down and choose Send Email Message. Compose and send your email message to the owner, without leaving the activity. You now see this message in your list of communications related to the meeting. When looking at the message, you see that it's related to an activity. Select the icon to preview the related activity. In some cases, you'll see a message option with a group icon beside it. On this lease, there are 2 tenants. As you know with Harmony, you can see the lease from either tenant's account, and it shows there are 2 tenants on it. Sending an individual message here will send to the tenant whose account you're looking at. Sending a group message, with a group icon, will send it to both tenants on the lease. You always have the option to see who the message is going to, before you send it. As a side note, many communications to tenants, related to a lease agreement, are actually notices and/or violations. Notices and violations are powerful, integrated systems, and are covered in depth in other resources. If you're managing associations, you'll see it's easy to send a group email to an association's board or a committee from the association's board and committee's view. We've covered the basics of sending system, individual, and group messages. We have not covered listing inquiries or marketing campaigns. Those are covered in detail elsewhere, and it's worth watching the videos on those topics. Next, we'll talk about receiving messages in Harmony, then we'll finish up with a discussion on managing messages. To receive messages in Harmony, you don't need to change your email address. Rather, you connect your existing email to your Harmony CRM account. There are different ways to do this, depending on the email system you use. If you use Hero Mail, with your Hero website, this is typically done with an email forward. Go back to your agent account in Settings, and copy the CRM email address. Then, go to the configuration for your email account. Again, this demo shows Hero Mail, but you may use Google, Microsoft, or another email system. Paste the CRM email into the forward, and save. Now that you've created this forward, all emails sent to your email address are also sent to your Harmony account. Let's see this in action. One of the tenants who received your group email about the sewer work has replied. You have an alert in Harmony. Select the alert icon to view unread messages. This sender is already registered with their email in your tenant list, so the incoming email is already connected to their account. If they send something from another email address that's not yet registered in their account, it's easy to connect it and permanently register the email for the future. In such a case, you'll receive the email as unassigned, meaning no matching record could be identified in any of your owners, tenants, vendors, etc. You'll also see a shortcut to mark this as spam. Assuming you've got email addresses for each of the people you do business with, all messages will come in as assigned. When you have an unassigned message come in, there's a good chance it's spam. For this demo, though, we'll assume this tenant replied from another email account that's not registered to them in Harmony. Select the message, and the option to search for the assignee displays. Locate the person to assign it to with the search box. If you want to permanently assign this email contact to this person, keep the box checked to add this as a contact in their profile, so future messages are properly assigned. Select the matching person to assign it to, and the message will be assigned. If you left the box checked, this email address is added as an additional contact in their profile. Back at the message list, let's look at some details. The first icon shows who this message is assigned to. Select the box to preview their profile. The next icon displays who this tenant's manager is. If you have multiple agents, it's a good idea to give each one a color for easy identification in lists. The next icon shows what type of message this is. This one's an email. This one is a text message. The color of this icon indicates whether it's a message you received, in, or a message you sent, out. When this is a received message that's not yet read, you'll see the unread indicator. When this is a sent message that has been opened by the recipient, you'll see the opened indicator. Hover over this to see when it was first opened. Here you see that the action for this incoming message is undetermined. You haven't decided what to do with it yet. You can open any message and do a variety of things, but since Harmony offers productivity solutions based on the GTD system, you can determine an action here, while previewing the message, and move along. Select the action icon, then select the action to assign to this message. For this demonstration, you've decided you want to delay dealing with this message. If you want to learn more about the GTD system, there are dozens of books and classes on the topic. If you use another productivity system, you can determine how you want to use the actions in Harmony. Because this is a demonstration, you can use your imagination. For this one, imagine that delay means you want to come back after you've handled other, front burner, issues. Over here, you'll see relevant indicator icons. Here we see a canceled message. It also has an attachment or link embedded. At the top of the list, you see the option to filter your message list. You can search for anything, or use the filter options by selecting the filter button. Messages in Harmony support the deep search functionality. When this is set to automatic, the AI determines whether your search term requires a deep search or not. Select this to toggle between deep search, automatic, always, or never. More on the deep search algorithm and methodology is available in other resources. This really doesn't make much of a difference until you have tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of messages, so you don't need to pay much attention to it in the beginning. If you enable message folders, you can put messages into folders and view messages by folder. Configure this from Settings, Messages, and Letters, Preferences, Message Folders. Add each folder you want and give it a color. If the default option is checked, messages in this folder will be included in your default folder list. Or, select the list options, then replace your list with the system default list. You can manually drop messages into a folder by selecting the folder icon, or by grabbing the message and dragging it onto a folder name in the folder menu. Select any folder to display only the messages in that folder. Since we're still imagining, all of your other front burner issues are totally resolved, and it's time to handle the message we recently received. Select the message to open it. Our options show us the next plausible actions for this message. You may want to reply to the tenant or forward it to someone else. Note that if you want another member of your team to deal with this, you don't need to forward it. In the action, instead of choosing delay, you could have selected delegate and picked the team member from the list. Other options here include adding an activity or adding a work request. If the tenant requested a meeting, or a phone call, or a task or project, or anything else for you to do, add an activity. If the tenant requested something maintenance related that you need to review or assign to a vendor, add a work request. When you do this, the original email is attached to the item, and you can send a template-based email back to the tenant from the notification options. All communications regarding this item are correlated not just to the tenant, but also to the activity or maintenance you added. Details on working with activities and projects, and work requests and work orders, is covered in depth in other resources. Let's take a quick look at a text message. Imagine the tenant didn't open the email message you sent, and didn't reply. You want to send them a quick text message to make sure they're aware of the sewer issue. Select Send Text Message, and compose the message. The tenant will receive this on their phone. When they reply, it arrives from their phone number. Because the phone number is already registered in their tenant profile, the message is assigned to their account. Previewing or viewing the message shows your original text, and their reply. Just like an email message, you can assign actions or reply, forward, add a task, or create a work request. Note that messages are subject to normal use per your account's license agreement. The number of free texts included in your Harmony account is lower than the number of free emails. While it's extremely rare to hit your account limit for emails, it's not uncommon to hit the text limit if you're sending a ton of text messages. Consult the normal usage section of your agreement for details on what constitutes overuse of messages. When you receive email in your connected Harmony CRM account, Harmony is using AI to determine a ton of other things that happen in the background. For example, when a vendor sends you an email that includes an attached invoice, that attachment automatically becomes available when you record the invoice in the owner's account. When a tenant prospect replies to an email you sent about a property's availability, their reply is automatically recorded in the unit's communication history. In other words, Harmony is doing a lot of the work for you, making things simple and efficient. At the end of the day, when you're using messaging effectively in Harmony, you'll find that the end of the day comes much sooner. Dealing with all the communications to and from your owners, vendors, guests, and tenants becomes smooth and fast. You've learned a lot today, so it's time to reward yourself. Grab your hang glider, jump off a mountain, and enjoy some serenity.